My name is Rob McNamara, and I'm a marketing science partner at Meta here in Sydney. What our team does is works with advertisers in Australia and New Zealand to help them understand and improve their ads performance through data and science. And today, alongside Sam, Group Account Director at Incubata, I'm going to talk about an area where so many measurement projects fall flat. And that's, okay, we've built this amazing, new, exciting measurement solution. But how are we going to actually take it and apply it to better decision making and ultimately profitable growth? Wrong button. So first, I'm going to talk about that concept and the idea of Measurement 360, which we've introduced at Meta, and the steps you can take towards holistic measurement. And then next, we're lucky enough to have Sam here, and he and I are going to chat a little bit about the work he's done with Les Mills and how they've transformed their measurement to guide their marketing strategy. Now, I tossed and turned a lot before I put this slide up because I think most of the people here have seen similar versions of this quite a bit. I mean, I think Paul basically put the same slide, but it looked like the Google Drive logo earlier today. And I have bad news. In the 4 hours since Paul talked, nothing's changed. There is still no single solution that's going to solve your media measurement needs. I mean, a few years back, I think we all hoped it was attribution. I wouldn't call myself a believer, but hand on heart, I generally hoped somehow we would crack that attribution egg. But I think we can all admit, especially with the recent data changes, it's just not going to happen, and the accuracy isn't there. And I haven't even started to touch on offline measurement yet. At the same time, there's probably so many people in this room that would just love to be done with attribution altogether. I was thinking last night, and I think it's been 7 years since the first time I heard attribution is dead. It's almost cliche. But the truth is, to take advantage of the speed of digital marketing, we need to have workable attribution measurement. And in terms of performance, in terms of capturing performance in real time, attribution is actually a really good monitoring tool. If I told you your attribution conversions are 20% down versus yesterday, pretty sure you're gonna wanna know why. And when you go to look into what the heck happened, one of the first tools you're gonna open up is your attribution model. Understand what's going on and dig into it. It's an effective tool. And along with the speed of attribution, I haven't even gotten into the granularity. Experiments in MMM, they can't get to the single ad level and give you a view of how every ad is working. For basic day-to-day testing like creative, attribution is more than a good enough tool to get an accurate read or a reasonable read. And it's just not feasible that we're going to run experiments for every single question that pops into our head. So yeah, I decided to show you this slide again. And I decided to tell you the exact same thing everybody else who has ever told you this slide is going to tell you, which is you need to combine lift, marketing mix modeling, and attribution into a holistic measurement solution. But I think we also know that's not the reality in most businesses. There's almost nobody I know of that's doing this. And the reason is that next question. And for a long time, I actually dodged it. I prayed my clients wouldn't ask, which is, this is great, Rob, but how do I actually do it? Bad news, my next slide doesn't tell it either. Well, it actually does, but not in the way you want it to. And I promise I'll get into that. But first I want to talk about what we mean by 360 measurement at Meta and how the holistic measurement can go. In short, 360 measurement is a framework we introduced at Meta to describe how businesses should be considering multiple measurement solutions to build a holistic understanding of ads performance that can ultimately lead to better marketing decision making. And usually we talk about it in that cross-channel performance context, but I like to think of it even at a slightly higher level, which is just not letting your marketing strategy being held by a single KPI, using all the information available to make those decisions. And so while there's 6 steps here, I'm going to break it down to 4. The first two we've already heard about quite a lot today. First is for any measurement journey, you need the building blocks. And for the solutions we're talking about, That's first-party data. So if your data is not in order, get it in order. Next is actually building and prioritizing the solutions, MMM, the lift, and the attribution. Most digital advertisers will already have some form of attribution in place, but maybe there's some known areas where you want to improve it. And hopefully you're also starting to put in elements of MMM in experiments as well. And that gets talked about a lot, those first two steps, and it's because that's where a lot of the work is. It's what a lot of us in this room do. And it gets a lot murkier on the second side of the slide. How do you build a holistic understanding? And what do you actually mean by triangulate and calibrate continuously? Speak English, Rob. Okay. What do I mean by triangulate and calibrate continuously? Nope, not yet. Okay. Oh, okay. Sorry, guys. So I'm going to give a very, the simplest example I can of calibrating, and then I'm going to tell you why it's not wrong. So say you run a list study, and it shows that you're underbaking one channel in your attribution model by 50%. You could very easily fix that by either doubling the credit you give it in your attribution model through a 2x multiplier, or cutting your target CPA by 50%. Both of those things have the same impact. But did you account for the confidence intervals in that list study? What if there's an outlier? And what if you don't want to go all in on a single list study, but you'd actually rather hedge your bets a bit until you can get some more tests in place to reconfirm? None of these decisions are going to be solved for you with a plug-and-play solution. And it's because the answer to every one of them is very highly dependent on your individual business situation. And the more I think about it, the more I come to it, what I think the answer is it's not a solution, it's a person. And more specifically, it's an analyst. So I'm going to do a bold thing, and in this room with this audience, I'm going to pump up analysts and talk about how great analysts are. A huge risk, I know. But if you think about what we need to do in terms of holistic measurement, it's we get all these data points, all these results from a lot of different places. We need to make sense of it. We need to understand the measurement that's underneath it, what the limitations of that measurement is. Then we need to tie that in with the overall business strategy. And then finally, we need to take that and build out recommendations and decide on actions we think we should take. And that's not even where our job ends. Because the hardest part is summarizing that in a way that our non-technical stakeholders can actually be influenced with. So yeah, I'm super impressed by analysts and that mindset. And for a long part of my career, I probably took that for granted. That analytics mindset, it is unique, and it's just not realistic. You're going to staff a full team of channel marketers that can all perform those tasks, which is what makes the next step I'm going to go through so important. You need to be making the right decisions based on that holistic measurement, even when the analyst isn't in the room. Looking at the picture here, you can have all the list studies in the world you want saying purple performs better. The MMM can say purple performs better. You can even have an LTV analysis saying purple is acquiring better value customers. But if today's target is based on attribution, where do you think the money's going to go? It's going to go to the gray. We don't want to be making that decision. And for me, the telltale of when you need to make a change, how you know you need to change that attribution model or change how you're making decisions, is when you see that holistic understanding being overridden by a single metric, or when you can't actually activate a strategy because of the metrics or the KPIs you're goaling your team on. And for that, you need a measurement journey. And what do I mean? I made up the term measurement journey, so I should explain it. It's kind of a step beyond learning agendas. So what I would look at as a learning agenda is kind of your day-to-day optimization, working hand in hand with your media plan, getting to iterative improvement. And you can make game-changing changes with a learning agenda. But the other thing you need to step back and ask sometimes is, how are we going to improve the way we make decisions on which strategy actually won? Think about a company that makes all their decisions based on CPA for their marketing team. Imagine how many of those decisions change when they start to consider ROAS or LTV. It's game-changing, it's huge. And for that reason, I'm so excited to have Sam here today to talk about not one, but many of the measurement journeys that him and his incubator team have brought Les Mills along with. So without further ado, please welcome Sam to the stage. Is your sound working, Sam?
No, it's not. Tap, tap. Okay, cool.
Okay, great. Sam, thank you so much for taking the time today here, and I promise he knows more about ads measurement than the soccer player.
I hope so.
Before we actually jump into measurement solutions and all that you put in place, could you just give me a brief overview of Les Mills, the company, and then also the way Incubator has worked with them in supporting their business?
Yep. So Les Mills is it's a global fitness company. They're based in New Zealand, and they're famous for workouts like body pump and body combat and body balance, and they sell these programs to clubs and gyms and consumers and trainers all over the world. So they're in 100 plus countries. A big part of before COVID, Les Mills was primarily a B2B company. And a small part of their business was Les Mills Plus, which is their digital fitness solution. But as COVID hit and we saw this kind of huge kind of wave of growth in the home fitness workouts category, Les Mills Plus became a really big part of their business. And that was at the time that they connected with Incubator, and we started working together. And our remit at that time was very much around trying to harvest as much of that kind of demand at the time. But over the last couple of years, we've really expanded the partnership to a point now where we support across full funnel strategy and activation. We support them with creative automation, and we also resell the Google marketing platform that supports their programmatic stack.
Great, thank you so much. And now on to the measurement, because you have, look at that, you've done a ton with them, and to do that, you've had to get buy-in almost at every level, from the CEO to the CFO, multiple different departments. Can you just speak a little bit to what you've done and just how you've done that, and how it's incorporated with Measurement 360?
Yeah, so I think the thread that connects all of those different solutions that you see on screen is that, that individually they all kind of filled a gap that we had in our measurement approach. I think in terms of getting, buy-in from key stakeholders, I think, in a lot of ways we had to become best friends with their finance and their commercial team, and the metrics that they were focused on was more around, how media was contributing to, overall kind of business profitability, and less so about, the more simplified kind of media metrics. I think it also really helped having senior measurement expertise in the business as well. They were able to cement the vision around, the measurement approach. They were able to get buy-in from senior stakeholders, and they were able to, fast track the speed in which they were able to, get some of these solutions up and running. In terms of, activating the Measurement 360 approach, working with yourself, Rob, and the Meta team, we were able to create a really holistic view of measurement, and one that wasn't focused on a single channel as a source of truth, but that used, a number of different solutions to kind of give us that view, and one that was kind of calibrated through Lift.
Great, that's so interesting, Sam. Thank you. So I'm going to kick off with probably the one that's closest to my heart, which is incrementality and Lift. Could you just share with us kind of your perspective on Les Mills' journey with incrementality, where they started, where they are now, and how it's impacted their business?
Yeah. So incrementality is something that we've probably only recently lent into. And I guess it came about because we found that as we started to scale our spend, we noticed that the conversions that we were being reported in our ad platforms versus what we're seeing in the business numbers, that in percentage terms, as we scaled spend, the differential was starting to widen. So, working with yourself and the Meta team, we implemented Measurement 360 with a particular focus on incrementality. So trying to understand, the incremental impact of our channel mix and trying to, drive the most efficiencies there as we could. Les Mills operates or advertises, should I say, in over 75 markets around the world. And in those markets, they have varying degrees of brand awareness. So it was really important that when we were designing the conversion lift studies, that we did so in a way that would not just give us a view on how the specific tactics were performing, but rather how those tactics were performing in the context of the markets that they were running in. And Les Mills being primarily a direct response based advertiser, they had really strict targets around KPI, around customer acquisition. So the way in which we operationalised the insights became really important. And we needed to be able to do it in a way that worked within the framework in which we transacted or traded our media. And we did this through the use of multipliers. So, based on the incrementality that we saw for a specific tactic in a specific market, we would then manually adjust the target. So, as an example, if you take the prospecting activity that we're doing in the United States, if, for instance, we saw that that specific line item was 2 times more incremental than what Meta was reporting in the platform, then we would essentially double our target. So, if we had a baseline target of $100 for a cost per acquisition, we would essentially make it $200. And we roll this approach out across all of our key markets. That approach was pretty significant in terms of driving efficiency, and we were able to reduce our average cost per incremental trialist by 5x as a result. Something that the business was pretty happy with, yeah. And as a result of the success that we've had with that strategy, conversion lifts, testing, experimentation forms part of our overall measurement approach, and we rerun the conversion lift studies every quarter, and the results that we get from those then are used to recalibrate our targets at a line item level.
Awesome. So shifting tacks a little bit onto the full funnel approach, and it might not be obvious what full funnel has to do with Measurement 360. So can you kind of explain where measurement kind of came into Les Mills' full funnel journey and how that got started?
Yeah. So, Les Mills rode that wave of growth, or COVID-induced growth, for a couple of years, and we found that, I suppose on the back of that growth, the business had some really kind of, strong ambitions around future growth. But we knew that was going to be really challenging with the current strategy. We were operating in a very different climate to the years of kind of peak COVID, where they saw that huge spike in growth. The category was declining. It was costing us more to acquire new customers. And we knew that in order for us to hit those targets, we needed to invest in brand awareness, and we needed to invest in reaching new customers. But as I mentioned around incrementality, Les Mills being a heavily, direct response focused client, they had really strict targets around, customer acquisition. So getting, that strategy off the ground was always going to take, a leap of faith in a lot of ways. And it wasn't until we saw a graph like this that it really clicked for us that we needed to move beyond our direct response focused initiatives and really start moving up the funnel. And for those that haven't seen a graph like this before, what it looks at is cumulative audience reach over time. So, the more purple you see, which is repeat reach, indicates that you're basically just hitting the same people over and over again, right? So, if you're an advertiser focused on short-term goals, then that's fine. But for someone like Les Mills, where, had really strong growth targets that required them to start, talking to new people at scale, this had alarm bells ringing, and we knew that, I guess it solidified in our minds that we were taking the right approach.
Great, thanks so much, Sam. And then just on the other end of it, after you ran the full funnel or the upper funnel campaigns a little bit, can you speak to the work you did with analytics partners and marketing mix models to support that strategy?
Yeah. So I think like a lot of advertisers, we kind of started our journey into brand media through using measurement tools like Brain Lift and Search Lift, and these were great leading indicators for effectiveness. But we knew that in order to get the business to buy into brand, that we needed a more robust measurement approach and something that could help us to quantify the ROI on the back of our brand media. And so we looked at a number of different solutions, and we landed on MMM as the solution of choice. And we spoke to a few different partners and decided to end up going with analytic partners. And I think what MMM has done for us is it's really allowed us to kind of validate and to quantify the impact of our existing channel mix. And it's also unlocked a whole raft of optimizations through the funnel that we can kind of get stuck into, that we know are going to drive positive outcomes. We also have a number of channels within our media mix that we haven't really been able to effectively measure in the past. Channels like connected TV, channels like social and YouTube that don't tend to perform well on a last click attribution model. So for the first time, we were able to really understand the ROI that was driven from those channels. Since working with analytic partners using MMM within our mix, we've been able to, iteratively drive, performance between the different runs. And if we single out Meta, for example, due to the optimizations from MMM, we've been able to increase our ROI by 117%, which is pretty significant. So our focus on MMM at the moment is really about trying to continue to align or recalibrate the model to make sure it's as accurate as possible. Working with the guys and analytic partners, and also continuing to take the insights that we learn from MMM and using them to power the optimizations that we make.
Great. Now moving on to LTV, lifetime value. I know it's your most recent initiative, so it's still a work in progress. But you've gotten the ball rolling there. And can you just talk about the work you've done with it so far and just where you see it going for Les Mills or with Les Mills?
Yeah. Yeah, so I think for a lot of marketers, bidding towards LTV makes sense, right? I think where it can get unstuck sometimes is probably in the activation side, right? It's probably a bit too simplistic to think it's as simple as taking a list of your high-value customers and then creating lookalike audiences on the back of those customers. I think for it to work, it really needs to, the approach needs to align with the measurement. And what I mean by that is, if you have a client who, benchmarks success on customer acquisition, and they operate on a CPA, right? If you, it might be a case that converting high lifetime value customers costs a lot more than what low lifetime value customers cost. So, if your goal and your strategy don't align with the measurement, you'll be in a situation where you're not able to see the value between the customers, and you end up, being on a CPA-driven strategy, going for the low, value customers because the two don't align. So, yeah, I think that having your approach line with the measurement is critical to success. And from a Les Mills perspective, as you said, we're definitely on the journey. We're by no means there yet. And it wasn't, until recently that we were valuing all our customers the same, despite, differences in the plans that they were on, whether it was annual or it was month or a monthly billing cycle, or whether they were a premium member or a basic member, despite the market they came in from or how they engaged. All of these kind of levers that we know, or indicators that we know, are critical tellers of lifetime value. So, at that point, we weren't really using any of that. But I think now that, we started working with you and and the Meta team, we have a better understanding of lifetime value, and we're gearing up to start more effectively using lifetime value in our overall marketing strategy. We've recently started testing some different ad products. Post-conversion optimization is one. And for those who aren't familiar with it, it's a Meta product, and it allows you to start optimizing towards deeper funnel events. So, Les Mills has always been focused on the trialist and trying to get as many people through the trialist pipeline to complete a free trial. Whereas, this allows us to go the next step deeper and actually start optimizing towards the subscriber. But as I said, we're not there yet. We've still got a fair bit of work to do. I guess the next piece for us is really getting into, value-based bidding and starting to, predict the lifetime value of a customer when they come in, and then using that prediction to power our, our approach and bidding to go after more high lifetime value customers.
Cool, amazing. So we're already almost to the end. And just to wrap up, do you have any closing thoughts for anybody in terms of if they were looking for advice on how to get started on a measurement journey, if they're looking to upgrade their measurement, similar to what you've already done at Les Mills with the incubator team?
Yeah, I think it probably start with your approach, right? Your measurement approach. Audit what solutions you're using and try and understand where the gaps are. And if there are gaps, then look at what solutions are available to help fill those gaps. I think that's the most important piece is to get that framework right, because as you can see, if you're still reliant, based on what you said before on attribution, you're fighting a losing battle. So I'd probably start there. It's the first piece of advice. Secondly, I think if you go down that track and you want to develop a more robust measurement approach, it's important to note that I guess it takes time to develop these. It's not something that you can do overnight. And you're probably going to make mistakes along the way, but if you do go down that route, I think it's important to get buy-in from stakeholders before you start the process, because the last thing that you want to do is get partway through the journey only to have those stakeholders come to you and question whether you should be going down this track, or question the value of brand, for example. So that's the second piece of advice. I think thirdly, I think it's important to show iterative improvement along the way, right? If you're using incrementality and you're using MMM to kind of guide you in the optimizations that you make, you should be showing your constant improvement as you kind of continue on. And I think if you're able to do that, it kind of gives confidence to stakeholders that you're on the right track. Yep.
Great. You mentioned a measurement framework. Can you just go into a little bit more detail about what you meant by that and what that involved?
Yeah. So I guess the whole point is, if you're using different solutions, you want to have different answers, right? You don't want to get the same results from the same solutions. Otherwise, there's no point having those different solutions in place. So it's about understanding what solutions you need to have in place to provide you that holistic view. From a Les Mills perspective, we use attribution to guide a lot of our day-to-day decision making, but we use Lift and we use MMM to help us to calibrate attribution so that all of our different solutions are working together.
So interesting, Sam, and thank you for all the insights. We are coming to an end, and I did think we'd do one more thing just for a little fun. Since this is an ads conference and ads measurement, can you just tell me about your last hot purchase you made that was driven by an ad, where an ad actually influenced you?
So it wasn't a football jersey, that's for sure. I've been looking for a dining table recently, and about a few months ago, I found this one that I was wrapped on, and it was this beautiful old elm wood dining table. And I saw the ad and I clicked through, and only to find out that it was sold out, and I was super bummed that I couldn't get my hands on it. But I saved the URL on my phone, and every couple of weeks I was checking in to see if it was back in stock, and eventually last week it was back in stock, so I purchased it, and it arrived next week. So yeah, stoked.
Cool. And how'd you measure that?
Yeah, good question.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sam.
No worries.